Hello there, Seraphim17 once again. This is my Ys 8 Lacrimosa of Dana Inferno walkthrough. We are now going to the Great River Valley, the Waterfall Grotto, and acquiring the Frost Edge, because apparently I can't type. But before we do that, we're on the Roaring Seashore. This is the reward for beating the Clarion and doing the dungeon. It's going to be an environment on a beach with lots of birds, and there's also going to be a survivor here that we're going to be able to bring back to the village that's going to open up some extra avenues. But that's a rock that we're going to need 14 people to open, so we can't use it just yet. And then these seagulls over here are called lugays, which sounds offensive, but they're not too bad, thankfully, because we have who I call X-Lax, Laxia. She kills aerial creatures really quickly. And because they're level 12, there's no real reason to fight them, but I wanted to fight them to show you how I fight birds. And birds are generally all the same in this game. They will do a backwards flip, a somersault into a dive bomb, and if you block the dive bomb, you can proceed to do a good damage to them, and then finish them off. Once again, using anybody with piercing or thrusting damage, or whatever the green one is, will kill anything aerial much quicker. They will also do much more break to them, so you can break them more easily. And this is me trying to jump up an edge that I can jump up to the left of where I'm stood, but the game has weird invisible boundaries sometimes, and the collision on them can be pretty fierce. So learn from my mistakes, guys. It's not all bad. But the damage type is really interesting. Ooh, this is Alison as well. Not Alison, sorry, Kathleen. This is my favourite NPC. She's the blacksmith, and she's just hard as hell. She's lived a tough life, and she's a tough lady, and she kicks ass, and I appreciate her a lot. But I'm talking to Captain Barbaros so that I can mention checking your map progress, which is something I should have mentioned earlier, but I didn't. So, in this game, we are tasked to be the cartographer of the island. It is our job to map the full island. Every 10% of map that you generate will give you an item from the captain. And some of those items are superb, so I definitely recommend that you explore the game so that you can get as many as you can, because they'll help you out in the long run. And I'm not going to be featuring me going back to him anymore, but I've left it in so that it will remind me to talk about it, and it'll also, show you that you should be doing it as well. Oh, be careful of these wolves, guys. These wolves here are the first wolf that will actively hit through your attacks. Happens a lot. I think they might just have a little bit more armor on their move than some, but you need to be careful because it can be quite dangerous. But the damage types that I was talking about actually play an even bigger role, which is really cool. This is the Great River Valley. There's our healing point. Use it. So when you have two people of the same damage type in your team, you get a damage bonus towards whatever that is. And I don't know the metrics of it. In Ys 7, it was a 15% damage bonus, and it might be something like that here. But if you have two people who are green, you will get a damage bonus for the entire party against aerial/green enemies. If you have two people who are red, you will get a slashing bonus against slashing weak enemies, so on and so forth. Mapping out your characters accordingly is something that is really, really useful at times, but I wish it played more of a role. There are a lot of bosses and a lot of enemies in this game that don't seem to be weak to anything, so there doesn't seem to be any point in managing your team. And I would really like it if you could objectively have a better advantage against things by intelligently manning your teammates. I think that's a good mechanic that should exist. And it does in some ways, but not in many. Did you see the T-Rex teleport just then? So, this is the first opportunity to hit a high-level enemy, a really high-level enemy, and get some skills. But I don't know the T-Rex's moveset that much, so I don't really fuck with it personally. I'm going to fight the Velociraptors, who are much easier and of a comparable level. But if you want to, you can beat on that dude, but do not kill it. There's no point. You get no experience, you get no drops because they don't die. There is a plot reason that gives them armor that stops you from killing it early on and getting a ton of levels, so don't even bother. But I believe if you have one of each member in your team, so if you have a slash, if you have an aerial/thruster, and if you have a yellow one, a rock crusher, a wall smasher, whatever you want to call them, if you have one of each, it makes the drops a little bit better, which is another wonderful aspect of the Ys series, which I think is present in this one. One thing you've noticed by just watching this or playing it yourself, Ys is not shy on drops. It is an action RPG that likes to give you items. It doesn't always give you the best items, and it can be grindy trying to get what you want, but fundamentally, it's kind of cool in what it gives you, and I really like that, because you always feel like you're getting things. And additionally, later on in the game, you will get the capacity to see what the enemies drop, which does this really cool thing. If you check your journal in this game and you look for a resource, the journal will tell you what enemy drops it, which I think is really, really nice. They didn't have to do that, but they did, and it can make getting what you need really cool. But we're going to take on the Spoon, or the Spawn, however you want to say this guy's name, Spawn Man, Noun, with a spur. This is a really stupid enemy that I think is hilarious, and I'm using X-Lax right now to take it on. The reason I'm doing this is because it's a much higher level than me, and I'm trying to generate some skills for Laxia if I can get some. My favourite moves with her are the dagger throw, because it's 3 hits all at the same time. It's really quick, it's really spammable, it's really cheap. I treat it like a shotgun, because you can just point blank enemies with it and do some pretty quick damage, which is really nice, and it's the first skill she learns, so everybody has it. But that enemy has a massive HP threshold. Luckily enough, when you stand close to it, it only has 2 moves. It'll either headbutt you, or it will spit its weird random seeds, which you can then guard that as well, and you can chain flash guards until you win. They have decent drops for the part where we're at, but we're coming to this area mostly because of the level. The creatures that you're looking at right now, that fire these weird spores, they're really high level, and they're really easy to kill. So this creature is 10 levels higher than me, yet it dies really fast. And I don't really get this room at all, because the balance here is immaculate. You're not going to usually hear me say that about Ys, because I find a lot of the thresholds for damage and defense are absolutely stupid. This is a game where I constantly lament how much I have to hit things to kill them, and I appreciate it's on Inferno difficulty and it's meant to be hard, but there's hard and then there's I've hit this thing enough to kill its entire ancestry and its family line, and it's still alive. And it's one of the more frustrating aspects of the game for me personally, but it's also a staple of the series, it seems. Whereas these enemies aren't. These enemies are incredibly easy to kill, in spite of being high level. So, I don't know who designed these enemies and their thresholds, but I love you so much, because I like killing enemies and feeling like I'm strong. I hate hitting things 50 times and feeling like I'm a tampon. But the reason I'm killing them as well is, you obviously notice this place is very dark, and bumping into an enemy in this room is going to kill me. So I'm going to be very tentative moving through here. And there is a selfish motive for this. I'm coming in here to attack these high level creatures in order to generate force edge for the main character. I'm using Tornado as well, which is a cool skill that we've picked up. That's really good for just dumping passive damage on things and chipping away at them. It's a cool skill. I like it a lot. It's quite expensive at this point though, 22 SP to use, but it's worth it, I think. Force Edge it's the flying swallow, it's the distorted real impact, it's the high side kick of this game. It is literally the most useful, ridiculously powerful, ridiculously fantastic utility that you have. And it's cheap as well, which makes no sense, so when you use it, Adol will do a horizontal slash with a phantom spectral sword, like a sword of energy, is going to horizontally cleave everything in front of him. But it isn't the size of his normal sword, it's the size of a small village. And it hits everything for really decent damage. It's quick, it's rangy, and it's cheap. And I cannot even stress how much I'm going to use it. By the end of these videos, you're either going to hate the move or love it even more, because that's the usage it's going to get. It's so good at crowd control, it's so good at hitting weak points that you're nowhere near, it's just good at everything. There's no downside to using this move other than it's not very stylish. And if you're coming into a JRPG with the ideas of being stylish, you're probably making a combo video and not beating the game on the hardest difficulty. So I can't even stress how good it is, guys. It's really super useful. And we're going to get it in this cave, and it's going to change everything. And I'm going to really love it as we take on the Urkaota? Urkaota? I don't know how you say these names. They're level 24 though, so all of these things are pretty high. They're dropping Murky Mucus, which you can synthesize in a little while, into Iron Ore, which is going to be the first component we need to upgrade our weapons. The weapon system in this game, for people curious, is not like the old Ys games. In the old Ys games, you found weapons and you bought weapons from stores, from your journeys. In this game, because it's all on an island, you use a blacksmith to forge them, and you get a special one at the end of the game, which is kind of the exception to that rule, but The progression is not my favourite. There it was, guys. We have it. Did you see that? Look at that move. It's so fast. It's so wide. It's so long. It's so stiff. It's so juicy. It's everything you could want in a phallus. It's fantastic. But it is dark, the picture right now. You might not be able to see what's going on, and I do apologise for that. I'm using my minimap to navigate because I can't really see on my TV either. And I think it's meant to be this way because they want you to use an item that makes the dark caverns glow. And I don't have the item yet, but I'm doing this early because I've already done it and I know there's nothing difficult here. I also know that there is a location I can find in the middle and there's a bunch of resources, so you know, it's kind of a double whammy of features. This enemy is so interesting too. Not only is it incredibly weak and incredibly sensitive and really well designed in my opinion, but you can also stun it into a crazy supine position where you can take advantage of it with your sword. And now it's really bright in here for some reason. Super bright room. But to get to the inner chamber of this sanctum, you have to go on the top area. Just for the sake of hitting things higher level than me, I'm killing all the enemies. And this is not Souls, guys. This is not inspired by From Software's games. When you touch the crystals in this game, you don't bring the enemies back. There's none of that bollocks. This is Ys. This is exactly how it should be. We're not parroting a different game in before Ys 9 has bonfires or something. Which, who knows, maybe they could make it work. They could make it their own. Something you might notice in this walkthrough though, guys, is I had several instances of the audio desyncing from the gameplay. So if there are any moments where the footage and the audio sounds a little bit off, I've pretty much done my best to make a lot of it align and to make it as cohesive as possible. But there are some times where the editing software likes a certain thing, the recording software likes a certain thing, and when those two things come together, strange things can happen. And you don't need to know too much about it, but it's the idea of constant frame rate versus variable. And even though you change your settings, sometimes it still happens, and I'm not entirely certain why it happens, but I have to offset it, and it can be a bit awkward. But it's something I'm conscious of and very self-conscious of, and I try my best to make it so that you never see it, but there's chances are you might see it. But here we go again with Mr. Spoon, who is not called Spoon, but I call him Spoon because he's a spooner. But he's a really good opportunity to level up your abilities and potentially get some new skills, so feel free to just wail on the dude, because look how much I hit this thing. I hit it so much. It's such an interesting concept, Ys, with the amount of punishment certain things take. Like, it's an action RPG, so player agency is everything. Precision and timing and execution are all up there. But then there's the statistics and the scaling of a traditional RPG, which means that you have to just wail on them. And it's such a disconnect in my brain, because I'm not used to a game that has this kind of precision, needing me to hit things as much as I do. And it's definitely an interesting cocktail. It's definitely its own thing. It's uniquely Ys, and I love that. A couple of dooners down here. Now that we have the Force Edge, though, we're going to be making quick work of a lot of these opponents. If you're wondering the skills that I'm going to be utilising in the game, for the most, because we're playing Adol so much, Force Edge is going to do most of the work, and then at the end, the Brave Charger is going to do a lot of work as well. With Lexia, once again, it'll be the triple daggers, maybe some of the different stun moves she's got, like the Stun Raid, I think it's called. With good old Sahad, it'll definitely be the easy to spam Shockwave with his Anchor, and then he does have the Magma move where he hits the ground and it does incredible damage. That one's pretty good too. I don't use Hummel that much, but he is really effective. A lot of people on the internet seem to think that Hummel is like the most broken part of this game, and he's the guy that if you want to have the easiest time, you want to pick him. But he didn't really suit my playstyle. I can see why he's effective, and I can see why he's much safer than the other characters, but when you attack and then the projectile comes out and there's that disconnect between attacking and actually hitting, I just didn't feel like it flowed very nice. So outside of spamming his shotgun-like ability and his counter, which is really, really easy to exploit, I didn't really give him too much playtime. I'll be using him against the Worm boss, which is the worst boss in the game, but other than that, he'll probably just be in there as a support role. But thank you for watching, guys. I hope you didn't have too much trouble with the Great River Valley or the Valley Grotto. And now you've got Force Edge, the entire game is yours, so good luck.